Okay, wait.
Go now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first live for Bethany's channel here. We're going to be talking about relationships and my new book that's coming out. It's Married. What is my book title? Making Marriage Last. Forgot my book title there for a second. So we have a bunch of people, a couple of people in the chat. We've got Michael in the chat. So our youngest is here. It's so exciting. Hello, Michael. And this is my wonderful husband, Dan.
Hi.
He's pretty much the inspiration for the book. So he's the one that created all the ideas for the book. We got Tim Windsor in the chat. Where's he at? There he is. Got Destroyer in the chat. Very excited. Mama San's here. Holy crap. Yay. So when I started talking about doing a live, I was thinking I go over to my friend's house sometimes when we have coffee time, and it's just a time where you can, share some things out, vent with each other, offer support to one another, and that's what I thought the channel could be, was just supporting one another in a relationship, making sure that we can kind of talk some things out. It's pretty much anything to add.
We wrote this book for quite a while.
7
years. And it's a big deal to us because, if we get this thing off the ground, it's going to be really beneficial for us. And I think it's going to be really beneficial for you guys or for people that read the book.
Yeah. It all came about from an idea that I got from our youngest. He had a school project where he had to interview us about marriage. So he was asking all kinds of questions like how long we've known each other, how we met, what was our favorite part of our marriage so far, where we saw our marriage going in 5 years. And I started getting this idea of, what makes a good marriage last. And we just celebrated our 15-year anniversary this past Wednesday.
Happy anniversary, baby.
Happy anniversary. And we haven't been married for all that long, but I got thinking that in our short marriage, we've been through a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Within the first 2 years, we've had our first house built. Dan had moved all the way from Illinois to Arizona, sold everything that he had, and moved out to Arizona so we could get married. And so we had our first house built. My mom passed away from cancer, and we started taking care of my dad and my parents' 3 adopted kids. So then within the next 3 years, my dad passed away, and we became permanent legal guardians of the kids. And so we really began thinking of the kids as our own, raising them as our own, taking care of everything for them, just becoming parents to them. And so having a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old within the first 5 years of our marriage, it was pretty stressful. But
maybe just a skosh.
Yeah, just a little bit. But we learned how to communicate with each other. That first 1 to 2 years of marriage it's really difficult on its own. And, throwing 3 kids into the mix and a whole lot of stress from losing parents and moving and just life. Um, it we had to learn how to communicate better. We had to learn how to really come together and
quickly.
yeah, very quickly. And we had to learn how to work together. And I think there's a whole lot of times where people tend to give up on their relationships so quickly because they they lose um, they may start falling out of love with each other, or they might um, start thinking, "Oh, this is too stressful. I don't want to deal with this anymore." And those are the times where you have to buckle down and start working harder, or you get into a rut when you have kids, and you've got all the scheduling conflicts of I'm going here, you're going here, whatever. Um, Try and get out of that rut with each other. It's hard to do that. We know that. We've been through it a
Yeah.
lot. So just trying to get back to our friendship and make sure that we are supporting each other and that communication is such a key. Um, we've really learned a lot those first 5 years, and we still struggle.
We struggled a lot those first 5 years. We had a lot of times when we weren't really happy with each other.
Right.
I mean, sure you can imagine all the stress. I mean, I was working out of town. I'm working in New Mexico, and I was home 2 days every 2 weeks if I was lucky.
Yeah.
And it was rough. It was rough. We ended up learning the one thing that really made us communicate a lot better was we learned that when I get home, we've got 3 days together.
That's it. 3 days.
We got to get along.
We're not going to argue because we don't have time to argue. We wanted to be with each other. We wanted to enjoy each other. We wanted to get to know each other again after 2 years or 2 weeks. So that was a really big breaking point for us in our marriage. Learning how to pick your battles.
Yes.
And figure out, is this really important to argue about, or can this wait for a little bit, or maybe this will just blow over and I don't have to work on this right now.
It's almost kind of one of those, is this going to affect our marriage or not?
Right.
If it's not going to affect our marriage, we need to let it go.
Yeah. Those first 2 years we were married, we had times where we argued about really stupid shit. I mean, really stupid shit. So I remember one particular time we had in our main bedroom, our master bedroom, we had Dan's desk, and he's forever forgetting to push his chair in, which is a really stupid thing to argue about. But I would kick my foot against that chair every single night, and I would say to him a lot, like, "Can you just push the chair in?" And he would say to me, "You know how to push a chair in. Why can't you do it? You can't move the chair yourself." And I'm like, "Oh, I can move the chair. Yeah, I can do that." So
you're not going to like where I'm going to put it, but
so the next time I left the chair out, I took the chair up and I laid it on his side of the bed. Something very stupid to argue about. Yeah. It was ridiculous, really. He just came into the bedroom and he was like, "Really? Yeah, yeah." It's we learned, okay, I have annoying habits. Dan has annoying habits. So we're just gonna move past those and figure out, okay, does this really need time and effort talking about, or can we just move past this and move along? And we had a lot of arguments that were like that, like stupid, ridiculous things. Yes.
not too many times.
Not too many times we've been chasing him with an iron skillet. No, I don't think we ever had one of those times. Came close, I think. But yeah, picking battles it's definitely something you learn how to do over time. Learning communication skills, learning fighting skills. it seems ridiculous that you would learn how to fight, but you have to learn how to fight with
You
each
got to
other.
learn how to fight.
You have to learn.
You got to learn how to fight with your spouse. There's fighting with other people.
Yes.
There's fighting with your brothers and sisters.
Yes.
And then there's fighting with your spouse. With your spouse, you got to remember this is the person who you're living for the rest of your life with. Is this really important for me to get across?
The other thing too is this is a person that you propose to.
Yeah.
This is the person that you love so much that you pick this person over every other person in the whole world. This is the person that you walk down the aisle to meet. This is the person you spent all that time finding a dress to wear for,
Yeah.
This is the love of your life. And hopefully this is your best friend. And that's one thing that we keep in mind too, is this is my friend. Do I really want to talk to this person this way? Do I really want to say these things this way to this person? And Dan and I have known each other. I'll just give you a little bit of a quick rundown of our story if you haven't heard it. Dan and I met when we were 7 years old. So our moms were good friends. And so we've known each other since we were little kids.
Yeah.
And we've grown up together. Our families were really close. I've known Destroyer since he was 4. And
I've known Tracy since she was a little girl with these big googly eye glasses. She was the cutest thing ever.
And now I'm an older lady with googly eye glasses.
No.
So I still remember seeing Dan for the first time, and he had these brown corduroy pants and this striped shirt, and he had this. It was like 1979, so he had this long hair, and he was just so cute, and he was just very, very sweet to me. And I had 3 younger brothers. Dan has an older brother and a younger brother, so these 6 boys are running around and playing outside in the woods, and I was usually inside with Dan's mom, and and hanging out with her, making cookies for the boys when they would come in, and Dan would always come in and he would start talking and asking me how my day was or whatever, and he was just very sweet with me, and we were each other's friends when we were 12,
Mhm.
and it was still the best kiss I've ever had. Fireworks and
It was
shooting stars.
I was 12 years old. I hadn't kissed very many girls.
And I mean, I think we both compared that kiss to everybody else in our whole life, for like the rest of our life. And so when I was 19, I moved to Arizona with my family, and we would come back to Illinois and visit, and we would always hang out with Dan and his family, and I would always hope that I would get another kiss, And so in 2007, Dan messaged me on MySpace. That's how old we are.
Yeah.
And told me he was coming out to visit his brother, and so get a room.
We have one. We're in it. This is our room.
So Dan came out to visit at the end of 2007, and we pretty much spent like every waking moment together, and realized that spark that we had when we were younger was still there, and we just, the spark has gotten stronger over the years. And at that point we were both single. It was awesome.
You talk about when we were 26.
When we sat in the car for 4 hours at night, all we did was talk, I swear. Well, a few kisses here and there.
She came to visit to see one of your
My cousin's
cousins. Yeah. And they just happened to come over to our house, and we're all hanging out, and Eric was in the band time, so he's downstairs with the band. They're practicing, and we got a little bit of a chance to talk here and there, and we were kind of smiling at each other. And
Dan kept staring at me from across the room. That's what it was.
So at the end of the night, her brothers were like, "Hey, we're gonna take off. We're gonna go back to the hotel." And Tracy's like, "Okay,
I don't want to leave
I
yet
don't want to
because
leave yet."
the band is still playing. I don't want to leave. And my brothers were being wet blankets and they wanted to leave. And they're like, oh, this is boring. I don't want to be here anymore. And all of a sudden, like Dan had been across the room the whole time. And then all of a sudden, I look over and he's right next to me. And he's like, oh, it's okay. I'll take you back to the hotel later.
Mhm.
Like, how did you even know we were talking about?
I listen.
He reads lips, I think. I don't know. So he drives me back. What color was that? Was it red?
Yeah.
The Daytona, right?
Yeah. Dodge Shelby. It was an 89 Dodge Shelby Daytona.
So we're sitting out in the parking lot of this hotel and we're talking and talking and talking. And I remember Dan saying to me at one point, we were talking about like people we were dating and things. And I remember him saying to me at one point, I just want to date somebody that remembers my birthday. And I said to him, oh, it's December 1st. And he goes, what? You actually know my birthday? And I said, I've had it written on my calendars for years. And he's like, no, you haven't. I said, come to Arizona and find out. I swear to you, I've had your birthday written on my calendar for years. So then he reminds me of our first kiss, and we make out a little bit here and there. It was okay.
Well, we did some making out. There ain't no question. nothing more than PG-13.
It was just first base. It was first base. That's it. It was.
Granted, she's my friend. I'm interested in her, but she lives in Arizona. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I would ever get out there. But I knew at that point that I wanted to try to get out there at some point. But I was living in Illinois and single, and it just didn't happen until I was 35 years old. And one of my friends and I female friends, went to a, like a, what do you call that? Like a convention for, basically it was James Arthur Ray, and he was teaching people how to manifest things in your life. And I was sitting there and we had a little workbook and stuff, and I was writing stuff down, and all of a sudden she popped into my head, and I was like, that's what I'm missing. I wrote it down.
You make me cry.
And from that point forward, I made a point every single day to talk about her, to do everything I could to manifest us getting together. And it took a while for me to get everything ready to go for me to be able to move out there. But my whole focus at that point was, I need to get out there. Just so happened that Eric ended up moving out there and was working doing telecommunications, which is what we were both doing in Illinois. And I ended up working toward kind of talking Eric into giving her my number and all that good stuff. And Eric didn't want anything to do with it. He's like, I'm not going to set you guys up. I'm not what did he say? I'm not a matchmaker.
And that's exactly what he was telling me, because I had moved into turn the camera off and go to your room later. I had moved into my brother's old house, and my dad said, I'll let you live here for free until you redo the house. So I was redoing the house. The only thing I had left to do was paint the ceiling, but I couldn't reach it. So I had called Eric and said, hey, will you come over here and paint my ceiling for me? I'll give you some beer. So he comes over and he's painting the ceiling. He's having his beers.
Beer.
Yes. And so he's painting the ceiling, and we take a break so he can have some of his beer that I promised him. And I'm like, hey, how is Dan? How's your brother? And he's like, I'm not setting you guys up. Like, I didn't ask you to send me. I just asked how he is.
Granted, I'd been talking to Eric for a while, telling him, man, if you see Tracy, tell her I said hi, and tell her I want to talk to her. And I want to get a hold of her and all this stuff. And then he was telling me, hey, yeah, I'm going to go over there and
Paint the
paint
ceiling.
ceiling. And I'm like, well, put a good word in for me. He's like, nope, not doing it. I'm like, dude, come on. So finally, I get tired of trying to get Eric to try to get her number for me. And I ended up going on MySpace, finding her, and then sending her a message. Just, hey, how you doing? This is my number. Give me a call whenever you get a chance. Blah blah blah.
So this was like a couple of days before Christmas that he sent this message, and I had been over at my mom's house, and they had foster kids and the kids that they adopted. So every year at Christmas time, I would go over and spend the night and spend a couple of days over there and watch them open their presents from Santa Claus, and, help wrap everything and stuff. So I didn't get home until a couple of days after Christmas and saw the message at like 11 o'clock at night, Arizona time, which is like 1 o'clock or midnight, I guess,
Yeah.
Illinois time. And so I just run out to my phone and grab it and start dialing his number without even thinking, hey, it's really late. He might be sleeping.
Actually, I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The phone rings. I picked up the phone.
I'm sorry.
I'm not.
We talked for like 4
I was
hours.
excited to hear from you. I was. You don't realize how long I had been trying to get your number so I could get a hold of you.
And we started talking. We were talking for like, pretty much all night that night. Yes, MySpace. It does not exist anymore. I had a ton of great music on there, and I think it's gone now. But yeah, we talked for a long time that night and decided, okay, well, when you come out here, we'll hang out. So the night he flew in, I drive over to Eric's house, Eric and Mama San's house, and we I said hello to everybody else first, and then I saved Dan for last. And you could just you could feel the electricity in the room. It was weird. Like it was total electricity in that room.
Oh yeah.
And
I was on a mission.
And everybody else
you had no idea, but I was on a mission. I told everybody at home, I'm going out there, I'm gonna ask this girl to marry me. And they're like, you're out of your freaking mind. How do you know this girl? You haven't dated her, you haven't, and I'm like, we've known each other our whole life. We know who we are as people. And I'm like, I like who she is. Why not?
Yeah. So we're talking to everybody for like a few minutes, and then Dan's mom and dad and Eric and Mama's son, they go to bed. And I'm like, shoot, I just got here and now everybody's going to bed. And
there was a reason.
So Dan and I sat downstairs talking for a long time, and I was just hoping I would get some kisses. That's it. I had no idea that he was coming out there to, start dating. Oh. So we hang out pretty much that whole week. He goes back to Illinois and calls me that night, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to date you when I move out to Arizona. And I'm like, what the hell was that whole week about? And he goes,
let me finish.
He goes, I want to move out there and I want to marry you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we'll see what happens. We'll see. So I had gotten, I was working 911. I was a 911 operator at the time. And that day, one of the officers came walking up with this puppy that he had found on the road. And he was so cute, and he fell asleep in my arms, and I couldn't pass him up. I fell in love with him. So Dan calls that night, and I'm like, hey, I got us a present. And he goes, you didn't get a dog, did you? Because I wanted to get one together. And I'm like, you're going to love him. He's so cute. And I already named him Rudy, because right around Christmas time, I had to find a Christmassy name. So his name was Rudolph. And so when Dan and I got married, his full name was Rudolph Shithead Bigson. So that was his full name.
By the way, greatest dog
Best
ever.
dog ever.
Oh my God, he was awesome. I miss him so much.
Yeah. So Dan tells me, Dan tells me on the phone, okay, if we're going to get married when I come out there, then I need you to do some things. I need you to find a place for us to get married, find somebody to marry us, and find a dress. I'm like, okay. So I get off the phone. I was over at my mom and dad's house hanging out that night. And I get off the phone and my dad's like, what were you guys talking about? And I said, well, I need to find a place for us to get married. And my dad's like, well, our backyard is really pretty, so why don't you guys just do that? And I'm like, okay, check. So then he said, my boss dad just happens to be a pastor. Let me call him and see if he'll marry you guys. So he calls his boss. They get it set up. 5 minutes later, he gets a call back. Yep. I'm like, oh, check. So the next day, they were having a big sale over at David's Bridal. So my mom and I went over, and the third dress I tried on was the dress. And so Dan calls that night, and I said, those 3 things you want me to do? Yeah, we're getting married in my parents' backyard. My dad's boss's dad is going to marry us, and I bought my dress today. So what else do you need me to do? And he's like, I'll get back to you on that. So,
I'm expecting this to take a couple of months. I'm like, give her stuff to do. While I was actually rebuilding, doing my house at the time, so I was basically whooping ass trying to get things done so I could get it up for sale and move. So I sold pretty much everything I had. I sold as much as I possibly could. Anything that wouldn't fit in my 2004 Neon. So
yeah.
I got everything sold. So I gave my car away. My car at an LHS. I gave that to one of the guys at work because I knew he needed a car, and I put all the stuff in the car, packed it up. My mom came over, and as I was packing the car, we had a we had an ice storm in Illinois. Big figure, and I was trying to put stuff in the car, and I kept sliding underneath the car. So I'm practically trying to run back and forth, trying to put stuff in the car, get rid of, get everything in there. And I called my mom, and she wanted to go with me, so I went over there, picked her up, and we set off to head to Arizona. Driving out there, and as we're driving out there, we get to, I want to say it was like in Arkansas somewhere. They had a major ice storm, and I mean, I was kind of putting down the highway as it was, but all of a sudden you could feel like, the car's moving around, and I'm like, oh God, please don't spin out. Please don't spin out. So I'm just like glued to the road, and my mom's like, you need to call Tracy. We need to talk to her right now. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because we need to pull off. And I'm like,
Dan wouldn't stop the car.
I don't want
He
to
wouldn't
pull
pull
off.
over.
I just want to get there,
So I get a phone call from his mom while they're on the road, and she's like, "Can you please tell Dan to pull off for the night because he doesn't want to stop?" And I said, Dan, I want you to get here, but I want you to get here safely. So please do what your mother's asking you to do and pull off the road, please. So he's like,
So I pull off, and I actually I brought my bikes with me because at the time I was riding probably 40 or 50 miles a day, and my bikes are on a bike rack on the back of the Neon. We had, of course, we're driving through the snow, and they're picking up snow, so they're like 2 huge snowballs on the back of the car, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I pull off. I pull into this gas station, and we do the best we can to try to clean off as much snow on the bikes. And while we're in the gas station, I keep hearing this noise. And I'm like, what the heck is that noise? I realize the guy parked next to me, is pounding on the window. And I'm like, I look at his car, and I'm like, oh crap, there's like a half an inch of ice on this guy's car. He couldn't get out of the car. So I went over and I tapped on the car a couple of times here and there, and the door opened. The guy's like, "Oh my God, thank you! Oh my God, I couldn't get out of the car. I was trying to call people, and I couldn't figure out what the heck I was going to do." And I was like, "Wow, that sucks."
I guess he had been in the car for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
He couldn't get out.
and he couldn't do nothing. He was sitting there, tapping on the window when people would go by and trying to get people to try to open up the door for him, or knock the ice off so he could get the door open. But so we gathered ourselves up. We went in, died for about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Got up in the morning, and I brought my bikes into the room with me so that they could melt. I stuck them in the tub so that they could defrost. So we get the bikes back on the car, and then we head to Arizona, and it was a trip and a half.
He got there just in time for Valentine's Day that year, so that was nice.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, we went on our first official date to the NHRA races with Destroyer and Amazon. And the next day, Dan proposed. So he had been in Arizona for 2 weeks, and he proposed March 1st. And then we got married 3.5 months later. So it was kind of a whirlwind at the very beginning. And it just kind of continued being a whirlwind, like the whole time we've been married.
Can I tell him how I proposed?
Go ahead.
So we knew that we were going to go to this steak restaurant that's not too far from where Mama San and Destroyer live. And I noticed that there was a band there. And so I'm like, I wonder if I can find this band. So I go on MySpace, find the band.
MySpace again.
And send them a message. Hey, I'm going to be getting married. It would be awesome if I said, I want to ask my wife to marry me at Santan Flats, which is the name of the place where we were at. I see you guys are going to be playing there. Is there any way I can get you guys to help me out? And they're like, oh, heck yeah. Like immediately got a response. Oh yeah, we'll do it. What's your name? What's her name? When do you want to do this? And we just got it all set up. So then I knew this was going to happen, but I was trying to be a little bit elusive about it. So I get a hold of her and I'm like, yeah, hey, we're going to go to Santan Flat on Friday for dinner. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. So I go pick her up and we head to Santan Flat. And in the meantime, Eric and Sandra were helping me out a lot. And they went and got roses and basically made sure I had all the things I was going to need. And so we're out there, and Santan Flat is really neat. It's a cool restaurant. You go into the restaurant and you can eat, and then you come outside and they have a band, they have like an arcade, they have like all this
tables,
and in the middle,
all open areas.
It's all open. In the middle, there's picnic tables with a bunch of fire pits, and you do your own fire pit. So you start your fire pit, and so we're sitting there, and the band is kind of off to the left of us, and all of a sudden, the guy for the band, it's halftime for the band or whatever. So they get on the mic and they say, "We're gonna go ahead and take a break. We need Dan up on stage." And so I turn around and I grab her hand and I start to pull her towards the stage, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
don't you think there's another Dan there that they could?
He just called me to the stage. I don't know. He must be going to do something. So I'm yanking her up to the stage. I get up there finally. I get up on stage, and she's standing down below, and gives me the microphone and starts our.
No, he didn't start the stage.
Oh no,
yeah.
So he hands me the microphone. I go up there
on the stage, and the band members walks over to me. And he's like, "You need to go up there too." And I'm like, they just called Dan up there. And he goes, "Trust me, go up there." I'm like, okay.
So she comes walking up on stage, and I go, I've known this girl my entire life, and we just started dating not too long ago, and I decided that I want to marry her. And here she is. she comes walking up on stage. Perfect timing by the guy, of course.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And I had the ring box that I had was a rose. It was like you open the top of the rose and the ring was inside, and it had a stem on it and stuff. So I said I need to give you this rose, and she holds it, and I opened the top, and I got down on one knee, and I said, I got something I got to say to this girl that I've been waiting for a long time to say, and I said, will you marry me? And she, of course, said yes. And then the band already knew that I wanted to play the song "Patience" by Guns N' Roses because that had been our song.
Yeah. We realized we were listening to a Guns N' Roses CD while he was visiting out here, and that song came on, and we're like, oh my gosh, this song totally fits us because we've had to have patience through so much. And so that song is kind of carried along with us in our relationship.
So it's like patience from when we were kids until we got to the point where we kissed, and then patience we had to wait until we were 26 to get a second kiss, and then patience I had to wait until I was 35 to actually get my brain together and realize that I wanted to marry her. And so, patience is the perfect.
It's a running theme through our marriage.
Yeah.
Like, we've had to have patience so many times. We tried for a long time to have a baby of our own.
It just wasn't gonna happen.
We were relying on patience. We were waiting and waiting, and ended up having a miscarriage about a month before my dad passed away. And so, right after that, we became permanently the guardians of my parents' kids, and really, really started thinking of them as our own. And we realized God had a plan. This whole time, He's always had this plan for us, and waiting for so long to bring us together, waiting until we were emotionally ready to be with each other, and mature enough, I guess, to be with each other, and then saying no to a child of our own so that we could take my parents' kids in and take care of them. And so it's really been a journey of patience for us.
Big time.
Total journey of patience.
Yes.
But I talk a lot about that in the book that I wrote about how all these things that we've experienced in our life, they've taught us so many lessons, and we kind of looked at other relationships that were close to us, other marriages that were very, very strong around us, some relationships that weren't quite so strong, and we learned a lot of lessons about how to get along with each other, and so the book that I wrote, Making Marriage Last, I talk about it in there about our experience, what we've gone through, and then I talk about these situations that we've seen in other marriages and how those things relate to what can make a marriage last. So as far as like communication skills, things that we've learned, things that we've practiced, and how they've helped us, and maybe they'll help you too. I don't know. And I don't offer advice in the book. I'm not a big advice person as far as like doling out advice to people. I like to talk more about, here's what I've experienced. Make your own decision.
Here's what's worked for us. Maybe it'll help someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe they can learn something from us and better their marriage, which is awesome. That's what we want.
Yeah.
And
we've learned too, strong marriages help other strong marriages.
Yes.
So, if you can help support somebody, it's amazing. You can, helping each other to become better. That's one of the things that I've really learned through this whole process of writing the book and everything is sitting and talking to friends. What is it?
She calls me Ernie in the book. I'm not sure why.
Like learning, we've learned to like just being able to talk to each other and support one another through different things that you're going through. Um, we're big proponents of that, like being able to vent with other couples and just talk about your experiences and strengthen each other. And yeah, with Mama San saying the book is interactive. There's questions like I've written different chapters like on communication or trust, honesty, dedication to your marriage, unconditional love, all these different things that make a marriage last. Putting the other person first. And then there's questions at the end of each section so that you can you can read the section with each other and then talk about it with each other. And I don't know, I think it's helpful.
Yes.
It's helped us. I mean, even after writing the book, we kind of refer back to it sometimes, and we'll read a section of it together and do the questions at the end, just to help each other out.
Help us get back to where we were if nothing else, because sometimes you get off track. It's going to happen. You're going to get pissed off at each other. You're going to have issues. At some point, you got to realize this person, I realize this person that I'm married to is my best friend. Has been since I was 7.
And he's still the same inside. He's still that same little boy. And, thinking about that, keeping that in mind when we're having issues that we have to talk about, that he's still that 7-year-old boy that I met. And he's that same person. He's still that same person down deep.
Yeah.
He's changed, grown up. He's learned a whole lot of different things, but he's still that same little boy.
And you got to learn to treat your spouse like that 7-year-old little girl with the googly eye glasses, or that little boy who was so sweet that you remember. You got to remember that person's still there, and you can tap into that person. It's just a matter of realizing that they're still that person and utilizing it.
Yeah.
And just saying, I remember when you were like this, and I really enjoy that, or whatever,
Yeah. And keeping in mind too that there's a lot of times that we get lost in the negative. We see a lot of negative in the news. We see a lot of negative in our world right now. We hear a lot of negative, and trying to remain positive in your relationship, trying to remain positive in this world is extremely important. I can't even stress enough how important that is. Like to look for the positives in your spouse, even if it's, hey, he came home tonight after work. That's a positive. He could have gone somewhere else. Look for positives in your relationship, because at different times we've had to do that, where you really have to, there's times where you really have to dig deep for a positive, and trying to remember why you fell in love, trying to remember the positive qualities that you like about each other.
Yep.
It's important to do that.
Once in a while, call each other a duty head.
Yes.
It happens.
It happens. And even being able to say to each other, you know what, I don't really like you, and I don't really like your behavior right now, but I still love you. And saying I love you to one another every single day.
Yeah.
As much as you can. Like, as many times during the day as you can. That's important.
Remember to the biggest thing that I was trying to get across is remembering that person that you're fighting with is that same person that you grew up with, or that same person that you had a great time with when you were a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. There was obviously, if you're married, there was a time when you guys got along.
I hope.
And you gotta cling to that sometimes because marriage is hard.
Yes, marriage is very hard. That's why it's good to have a community of people that you can go and bounce ideas off of, or you can share things with, and like I've got mama son that I can call and talk to, or I can go and talk to, my friend Tina and go and have coffee with her and just chit chat with that person,
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. It's super important to do every time you can because one day you may not be able to say it.
Yes.
And we learned that quickly
Yes.
because her mom was one of my inspirations as a kid. She was a great lady. And when she passed, it was rough.
Watching, my dad and the kids moved in with me and Dan after my mom passed away. And one of the things that really changed our relationship is watching my dad grieve over my mom. They were they had rough times when we were growing up. They were married for 37 years, and watching him grieve over her it puts a different perspective on um, what you're fighting over.
What's important?
Like in 10 years, is the fact that he leaves the socks on the floor really going to matter, or can I just push that away and focus on the fact that he's the most generous, kind person that I've ever met, and I want to keep him in my life. And being able to say, I love you as many times as you can. You're exactly right in a new one. There's going to be a day where you can't say it to the person. So giving those hugs to the person, spending as much time as you can with one another. That's one thing that Dan and I, even when we had the kids around, we would send the kids to my brother's house for a weekend and say, we need some alone time. We're going to have naked night and we don't want kids there. So get out.
Get lost. I mean, we love you.
We love you.
Go away.
But we don't want to see you right now. Get the hell out of my house because it's me and Dan time right now. And just being able to spend as much quality time with each other as you can while you can, it's priceless.
It is.
They're seeing my dad say, hearing my dad say to us after my mom passed, I wish I had done this differently, or I wish I had done this differently. It's yeah, naked time.
Naked time.
Naked time is extremely important. I will tell you that.
Since we're already talking about it,
yes.
One of the things that we recently have been dealing with is Mike is now off in the Navy, and we can do naked time anytime.
Yay!
Does that mean we do naked time all the time? No, not really. But we do whatever we can.
Yay!
But learning to turn off parent mode and turn on this is my wife mode was hard.
Yes.
We were used to fighting things out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, you don't do it, you try not to do it in front of the kids, you try not to do it in front of anything else. And then when the kids aren't there, you pretty much just stand there and yell at each other because there's no way around. Are we still there? Can you hear us now?
Stream froze. I don't know if we're back. Are we back?
Oh, yep. There we go.
Okay, we're back. Yay!
I don't remember what I was saying.
I don't remember either.
Anyway.
That's all right. I think it was something about fighting with the kids around.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have the kids around. It's really easy to get caught in a fight and just basically walk away from each other because there's nothing holding you like there was when the kids were there because you got kids. I mean, you can't, you got to keep supporting the kids. But we learned pretty quickly that the behavior that we were using while the kids were around was not going to fly.
No. Well, the other thing too is for all of you moms out there, I know it was true with me. You're pretty much the one that's scheduling everything. You're helping the kids with the homework. You're making sure they get up in the morning, getting ready for school. You're taking them to all their crap that they're involved in.
Volleyball.
Oh my God. All their school
shot
stuff. There's so many things that you're focused on all the time. And you develop this mom voice where it just kind of automatically comes out of you, like, what did I say? And you have to, once the kids get out of the house, then you're sitting there going, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you like you're one of the kids. I need to stop doing that.
And it happens.
Yes. And
there's even been a few times when I've been like, honey, no.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to work.
Yeah. I'm not Michael.
We need to take that down a notch. That's not going to come.
And it takes a little bit of time to get out of that thinking that I don't have to be in charge of every little thing. I don't have to have such a rein on everything, and I can relax and just work on books, and I can, call the kids from afar and say, hey, I'm glad you're out. Stop grabbing here. I never did that. But there's a level of comfort where, it's okay. I don't have kids that I have to wake up with at 6:30 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Drive them to
school,
12 different places during the day, and that's a nice thing. Yes, I will say, the empty nester thing. It's been a glorious thing. We love it.
Totally recommended.
Yes. Cheers to that.
Yes. Just remember when you get there, it's going to be rough, but it's nothing that you can't get through. And for me, it was actually fairly liberating because my whole thing was I don't want to fight in front of the kids for the longest time. And yeah, it took me a little while to go, okay, well, we need to continue to fight. We just need to make sure that we're fighting the right way.
Yes.
And we had to break things down. There's some examples in the book of things that you can do to help with that situation, and we actually utilized them, and it worked really well.
A couple of great pointers that we use. If the conversation is getting too heated,
if you're talking over top of each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I talk over top of you?
One of the things I'll do, we'll pass the lighter back and forth to each other, and we set a timer on our phone for 2 minutes, and each person gets 2 minutes to talk. And when that timer is done, you stop talking, and it's the other person's time to talk. And it really makes you focus on what the other person's saying. And so we do the 2-minute thing all the time. And you get to a point during that 2-minute thing where you stop passing the lighter back and forth, and you really start listening to each other. It usually happens about, time number 3 of passing it back and forth.
Yeah, usually the first 3 are kind of, and then, okay.
Because the first 2 times that you're passing it back and forth, you're still in that mode of, I'm going to get my point across, and you're not really in listening mode. You're still in, I'm going to get my point across, and you're only listening for key bullet points that you can throw back to the other person. And then as you go along, you're starting to listen more to, oh, okay, that's why he reacted this way, or that's why she said this way. Now I get it because you're listening now.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that we practice is if the conversation is getting a little too heated, usually it's me. I'll just say, you know what, I don't want to listen to this right now. I can't listen to this right now. I'm not in the right headspace for this right now. So I'm going to go inside the house for a few minutes, and we're going to take a few minutes to breathe and not talk to one another, and then we'll come back. So
I use the stereo volume strategy. If she's at
a
10,
10,
I come in at 5. That's a good idea.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
That's a good idea because if you're coming in calmer than the other person, they'll naturally just kind of come level. It might not happen right at first, but they will come down to your level.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy for sure.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of different things that we use, a lot of different strategies that we use. I'm never a 10.
That's awesome.
I would tend to agree with you, Son.
Yes, she's never a 10.
Now I could go to a 15 sometimes.
I probably hit 100 at times, but
yes,
I try to keep it 7, 6. Try to keep it down there.
Sometimes, yeah.
Not all the
There's times where we all get a little amped up. It's
Yep.
And it's fine. It's fine. Troy's gonna get the iron skillet.
Nice. We have a new subscriber.
Nice. Hi, Mrs.
91 Mustang.
Yeah,
Nice.
91 Mustang. Awesome.
Nice.
Welcome. Yes. It's 15 to 20 every once in a while.
Yep.
Every once in a while, it's okay to fight it out. Fighting is a healthy thing to do in a marriage. It's healthy because it's kind of like changing out your oil. There's a lot of car guys around here. It's kind of like changing out your oil. Sometimes you need to flush the whole system and start out again.
Let the anger out.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's when you get to the point where you can be angry with someone and they're calm, you're doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it pisses you off, because it's gonna piss you off that the other person's calm. At some point, you go, yep. I need to calm down. I need to take it down a notch.
And we both have times like that where.
Oh, we do. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, this girl right here, she's an expert with a dagger. This guy right here, expert with a dagger. That's the problem.
We're talking about verbal daggers here too. Verbal daggers. So verbal daggers.
Cutting each other because you know each other so well that it's there. You can grab that knife and you can stab him with it if you really. And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But if you're smart, you're gonna realize, okay, that was probably way over the edge. I should back this down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And by that time, she might already be amped up to 12, and you gotta be the person that's calm and say, "I'm sorry, I screwed up. I didn't mean to stab you like that. That was not nice."
So we usually call each other out when we're throwing the verbal daggers.
That's a dagger.
And it's usually after a couple of throws by each of us that I'm like, all right, I'm going inside the house. I'm not going to talk to you for a while because you're pissing me off and I don't want to talk to you right now.
Right.
And by the way, it's okay to go to bed angry.
Yes.
Anybody who's ever told you to go to bed angry, tell them to shut the hell up. Because going to bed angry, sometimes you need to do that.
Sometimes it's not going to get something resolved that day. Don't force each other to stay up and miss work or do anything stupid. Let go as much as you can. Tell each other that you love each other, even though you're mad at each other. I'll tell you, I don't like you right now, but I still love you.
Yeah.
I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I got to get up tomorrow. I got to go to work. let's table this until tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll figure it out
And
tomorrow.
even though we're
before you
both
go to sleep.
ready to kill each other, we'll back down, which is an important thing. And then the next, you're gonna find the next day you wake up, you're gonna be like, I'm an idiot. That was stupid. Why did I say this? Why did I do that? But when you're mad, all you're thinking about is how can I hurt this person as much as possible.
You want to get your point across. You want to, and a lot of times we get into this mode of I have to get my point across. Well, no, you don't, because is your point really that important? No, it is. And the thing that we're gonna close soon here. We're gonna end soon, but the one thing I want to do, the one thing that I want to end with is keep in mind: is it more important to be happy, or is it more important to be right? So, is it more important to be happy, or is it important to
Continue to be married.
Yes.
Don't use the D word.
Yes.
Keep the D word out of your language. This person right here will never have an issue with the D word because there's no way it's ever going to happen. I will not let it happen.
What D word are you talking about?
Divorce.
Okay. I was trying to make sure. Yes, it always seems to be the dumbest crap.
Yes.
Brings the worst fights.
There you go. And then you're screaming at each other like, la, la, la. And then the next day you're like, why the hell were you even mad about that?
We just had the dumbest argument. Like, what was it? Wednesday?
Yeah.
I don't even remember do you remember what it was about?
No.
I have no idea what it was about. All I remember is we were really freaking pissed at each other though. We were mad. We were really angry. But I don't remember what it was about. And that's the thing. Like, are you going to remember what this argument was about, or are you going to remember how happy this person makes you? And sometimes you have to keep that in mind. That is it more important to be right, or is it more important to be happy and married?
That's it.
You know, my wife argues with facts. She'll stick to the facts all night. No fight. When she's right, when she's wrong, she goes wrong. I do not go wrong. Oh, we got a fight going here. Not often.
Anyway.
Yes, but we'll go ahead and end it there for today. Thank you guys so much for coming on here today and being here with us. We really appreciate you, and we'll be back next Sunday. And
we're terrible at this right now. We know we're terrible at this right now.
It'll get better, I promise.
We're gonna get better. The show's gonna get better. You guys will love it.
Yes.
We'll keep getting better, and we'll keep growing, and we'll keep working on things.
And here's some homework for you. So think of some things that you really like about your spouse, and this week, tell your spouse what you like about him.
Good idea. Very good idea.
So that's your homework for this week. Talk about things that you really like about with each other, and we'll see you next week.
We love you. Make sure that you love you. Make sure that you love you before you try to love someone else, because you cannot love someone if you don't love yourself.
Yes.
Period. We love you guys.
Love you.